Hi friends, any individual can be biologically identified with the features like age, sex, ethnic origin, and stature, while his personal identity discriminates him by the characteristic criteria like DNA, fingerprinting, and dental information. The skull is the most useful source of information which establishes both biological and personal identity of an individual. In this video, we'll be learning about the development of the skull and its developmental anomalies. And I'm Dr. Lakshmi Gayatri presenting this video. Basically, skeletal system is divided into axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. The axial skeleton includes the skull, sternum, ribs and vertebrae, while appendicular skeleton includes the pectoral pelvic girdles and limbs. The initial development of the skeletal system is from the lateral plate mesoderm, paraxial mesoderm, and the neural crest cells. In the beginning of the fourth week, the paraxial mesoderm undergoes segmentation to form somatomeres and somites. Somatomeres are formed in the head region, and somites extend from the occipital region caudally. During the fourth week, the so-formed somites from the paraxial mesoderm will further divide into a ventromedial sclerotome and a dorsolateral dermomyotome. So the bone-forming capacity of the somites is processed by this sclerotome. Hence, the differentiation of skeletal system is in such a way that the appendicular skeleton is formed from the lateral plate mesoderm, neural crest cells, and the somites of paraxial mesoderm, while the axial skeleton is formed from the neural crest cells, the occipital somites, and the somatomeres of the paraxial mesoderm. It is well known that ossification is nothing but bone formation. During the development of axial skeleton, the somatomere, the occipital somite, and the neural crest cell differentiates into a loose embryonic connective tissue called mesenchyme. This mesenchyme can form many cells like fibroblast, chondroblast, and osteoblast, which favors the ossification of bones. When forming flat bones of the skull, mesenchyme produces osteoblast and directly lays down the bone tissue. This kind of ossification is called as intramembranous ossification, and such bones formed are called membranous bones. While forming bones of the base of the skull and limbs, the mesenchyme produces chondroblast, which lays a cartilage model. They then become ossified into bones, and such an ossification is called endochondral ossification. These bones are named as cartilaginous bones. We need to know about this because neurocranium is made of both membranous bones and cartilaginous bones depending upon its formation. Considering the classification of skull bones, it is basically divided into neurocranium, which surrounds the brain, and viscerocranium or splanchnoscranium, which forms a facial skeleton. The neurocranium is further divided into membranous bones, which forms vault, and cartilaginous bones or chondrocranium, which forms the base of the skull. The bones forming the vault are frontal bone, paired parietal bone, paired squamous temporal bone, and interparietal part of the occipital bone. While the chondrocranium is made up of squamous part of the occipital bone, sphenoid bone, ethmoid bone, and petrous and mastoid part of the temporal bone. During the second month, the elements of membranous neurocranium formed by intramembranous ossification, as already told, first lays down primary ossification centers, which then spreads to form its characteristic bony spicules at the periphery. These spicules enlarge and radiate and form the flat bones by opposition of new layers of bones from outside and by the osteoclastic resorption of bone from inside. In such a way, the flat bones of the vault are formed. In newborn skull, the flat bones are separated by narrow connective tissues called sutures. At points where more than two bones meet, the sutures are wide and are called fontanelles. Sutures and fontanelles allows the bones of the skull to overlap, that is molding, during the birth of the child. Soon after birth, the bones will regain its original position. There are 6 fontanelles in newborn skull: unpaired anterior and posterior fontanelle, anterolaterally placed paired sphenoid fontanelle, and posterolaterally placed paired mastoid fontanelle. Usually, within 3 to 4 months of birth, all the fontanelles are closed by bones except the anterior fontanelle, which persists up to 18 months to 24 months after birth. This delayed ossification of anterior fontanelle has a clinical significance. The palpation of anterior fontanelle will give a valuable information about the growth of the skull and the intracranial pressure. When the vault bones are processed, the chondrocranium also starts its embryogenesis during the second month of intrauterine life. There are 3 parts in the development of the chondrocranium. 1. In the cephalic part of notochord, 2nd. Around the hypophysis cerebri, and 3rd. Between the optic and the nasal capsule. The cephalic part of the notochord is surrounded on its either side by a pair of paracaudal cartilaginous plate. This, along with the occipital sclerotome present caudally, forms the squamous part of the occipital bone and basi-occiput. Still lateral to the paracaudal cartilage, periaortic cartilaginous capsule is lying, which later gets ossified to form the petromastoid part of the temporal bone. In the second part of development, around the hypophysis cerebri, a pair of polar cartilages are present medially and a pair of alisphenoid cartilaginous plate are lying laterally. These 2 cartilaginous plate fuses to form the body of the sphenoid and the greater wing of the sphenoid. They then later becomes continuous with the basi-occiput below. In the third part of development, more rostrally, the trabeculae carinae cartilaginous plates forms the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. Lateral to the trabeculae carinae, orbitosphenoid cartilaginous plates are there, which fuses with the polar cartilage to form the lesser wing of the sphenoid, leaving a cleft between them called as a superior orbital fissure. The ossification of the chondrocranium occurs under the influence of the Indian hedgehog protein. Though the ossification starts in the second month of intrauterine life, yet it is completed only after puberty. Literature says it takes around 25 years for the basi-occiput to fuse with the sphenoid bone. The embryogenesis of the skull is not complete without the formation of the splanchnoscranium or the facial skeleton. Phylogenetically, the viscerocranium or the splanchnoscranium is related to the skeleton of the branchial arch or the pharyngeal arch in human as commonly called. The first arch or the Meckel's cartilage meets with the opposite similar cartilage ventrally to form the mandible, and dorsally they form the maxillary process. This maxillary process forms the premaxilla, maxilla, zygomatic and squamous temporal bone, and when grown inwards it also forms the palatine bone and the omer. The ear ossicles, namely the malleus incus and stapes, are also formed during this period. Malleus and incus are formed from the first cartilage or the Meckel's cartilage, and stapes is developed from the second branchial arch cartilage. Thus, the embryogenesis of the neurocranium and the splanchnoscranium are processed to form a complete skull. Now we'll quickly look into the developmental anomalies of the skull. Neural crest cells originating in the neuroectoderm often becomes the target for teratogens. Having neural crest cells as a precursors of facial skeleton and skull, when they are affected by teratogens, craniofacial abnormalities may occur as birth defects. Cranioschisis, also called as dysraphism, is a condition where the cranial vault fails to close completely. This is due to the failure of the closure of the anterior neuropore. As a result, the brain tissue is exposed, which degenerates to become anencephaly. Children born with this severe defect cannot survive. Acrania. This refers to complete or incomplete absence of cranial vault. Mesenchymal defect seems to be the proposed pathology behind this, or it may also be due to amniotic band syndrome, where the amniotic band entraps the fetus and causes the abnormalities. This is also associated with anencephaly, or it may also result in exencephaly. Exencephaly is a condition where there is lateral widening of the cerebral hemispheres, which causes a Mickey Mouse sign in the ultrasonogram. Growth of the skull is contributed by the sutural growth during the first few years of life. Remember my mentioning about the anterior fontanel? Premature closure of sutures is only called as craniosynostosis, which leads to restricted or abnormal growth of the skull, causing skull deformities. In scaphocephaly, there is early closure of the sagittal sutures and results in frontal and occipital expansion. Such long and narrow skull is called scaphocephaly. Brachycephaly is premature closure of the coronal suture, which causes short skull. If it is unilateral closure, then there is asymmetric flattening of the skull, and that skull is called as plagiocephaly. In cloverleaf skull, all the sutures close prematurely, and the shape of the skull appears like a clover leaf. There are some genetic defects characterized by craniosynostosis with some other associated features. To be noted are Pfeiffer syndrome, where cloverleaf shaped skull is associated, Apert syndrome, where craniosynostosis is associated with syndactyly, Cruzen syndrome, which is associated with underdeveloped facial features along with craniosynostosis. Megalocephaly is a large skull defect which is characteristic of achondroplasia, a skeletal dysplasia condition. Microcephaly is abnormality with small skull due to defective brain growth. Children with microcephaly are usually intellectually disabled. Lastly, a mention about the Vermian bones. These are isolated sutural bones which occur near the sutures. Especially affected will be the lambdoid suture. This is because of the presence of additional ossification centers which occurs near the sutures. Such an isolated bone, when it occurs near the lambda, it is called as Inca bone or Goethe's ossicle. These bones has least clinical significance. However, a hydrocephalic skull may have more Vermian bones. It may probably due to the rapid skull growth. With this, we have come to the end of the discussion. The key points to be noted is the development of the skull is from the somatomeres, occipital somites of the paraxial mesoderm, neural crest cells, and the first and second branchial arch. The ossification starts in the second month of intrauterine life and it is completed after puberty. Sutures of the vault becomes obliterated by 40 years of age. Ear ossicles ossify separately during the 4th month of intrauterine life. Friends, don't miss to check out the MCQs given with respect to the topic discussed. Thank you.